Hello, this is Joanne Hewins from lovetocreate.typepad.com, and today I'm going to talk with you about how to make this card. We're going to be using these colors in our card: Real Red, Early Espresso, Mossy Meadow, and, well, I have the, and Granny Apple Green on there. And we'll also be using several framelits, or dies, I should say. We're going to be using, this is from the Tasteful Labels dies. We're going to be using this one right here. And I've cut a piece of white for that. And then we're going to be using this label. And I actually just cut that right out of the center of my designer paper. That's going to be covered up later. And this paper is from the In Good Taste designer series paper. And then I'm also going to be using the stitched nested labels. And I've got the largest one, and I've cut that out of just a piece of Whisper White. So we'll be using that also. So let's get started. The base of this card is in Old Olive, and I have cut this. It's a half a sheet of our regular paper. It's 5.5 by 8.5. I've scored that at 4 1/4, and so I'm going to fold that. Still going to kind of, even though I have a score line, I'm still going to kind of watch to see that my corners meet nicely, because you know those scores are not always perfect. And then I'm going to use my bone folder to burnish that fold. And as I said, I'm using a piece of, this is 4 inches by 5 1/4 from the In Good Taste. And I'm just going to go ahead and glue that into the center of my card base. Now, this really isn't a hard card, but what I wanted to talk to you about mainly was my placement of the tree. And for that, I'm going to be using the Stamparatus. So I'm going to go ahead and set these things aside, excuse me, aside for now. And then we'll talk about how we're going to stamp our tree. The stamp set that we're using today is the Life is Beautiful stamp set. I keep wanting to call it the Tree of Life, but anyway, Life is Beautiful. And so let me talk to you about the placement. I'm on my Stamparatus. I do have the foam plate because our stamp is a photopolymer stamp. And then I have a grid sheet. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just place my piece of paper there. And I'm going to get my tree out. And when I'm thinking about the placement of the tree, I want to get it so that it goes over part of my die cut. So about like that is what I want. But I also want it to work for the inside of my card. And on the inside, again, I've come in from the edge like that. So I'm going to kind of lay this in and get that look for this on here. And I think what I'm going to do is move this down because I want it to go off a little bit more. So I think I'll move it to this bold line here. Okay. So I think that is probably where I would want it to go on the inside. So I'm going to put this down. All right. So now I need to know where to place this to get what I want. And to do that, I'm just going to move it around until I have it about where I wanted it. And let me look at the front of this. And I think that's might be about it. I might move it up just a little. Okay, so I think that's about where I want it. And I did this for a class, and I wanted the people who took the class to know where to place this piece without having to go through what I just did. So what I did is I just traced it carefully. Hopefully my ink is working. And that would give my people taking the class an idea of where to place this piece. So I'm going to put it back inside my tracing. And we'll ink up the stamp. And I'm just going to place an ink pad under my Stamparatus to get this part straight. And I'll ink up my tray. I didn't need to ink all of that because it's not going to print. So okay, so that looks good. And while I've got everything here, I'm going to bring in the inside of my card. And I think I'll put that down here at this line. So for the class, I would mark in some way that they needed to put that on this line. Okay, and so we'll ink that up again. And now we're able to do the inside and the outside with the tree just in one spot. Okay, so we'll set that out of the way. Let me close this up. And we'll work on our stamping. So I'm going to go ahead and work on the stamping of the inside and the outside leaves at the same time. So I'm going to pull out my Mossy Meadow, and I'm going to stamp, and then I'm going to stamp again. Okay, and I'll do the same thing over here. Turn that around a little. Okay, so there's that. I'm going to actually hold on just one moment. I apologize for that. I thought I had everything, but I needed my chamois, so I'm going to clean off. I actually had that sitting in the sink. So I'm going to get my Granny Apple Green out. And when I stamp this, I don't want to stamp it in exactly the same place. I want it to show up that it's different. And then we'll come over and do this one again. And I'm seeing now, I don't think that that's probably the very same colors I used in this focal point. I think I used Old Olive because that's the color of our card. But we're just going to move on. Okay, I'm going to bring in the stamp that has the little birdhouse, and we're going to stamp that right here under that tree. And then I'm going to clean that off. And I'm going to stamp the same thing in real red on a piece of scrap paper. Okay. And so now the next thing that I'm going to do is just cut out this little birdhouse and mount it on top of the other, because I just wanted a little something to pop out a little bit. So we'll cut that out. Got awfully quiet, didn't it? Okay, so we'll brush those pieces over here out of the way, and I'm going to add a dimensional to the back of this house, and that's just a little half dimensional that I'm going to need to trim still a little bit more. Probably the mini dimensionals would be perfect for this. I don't have mine out. Okay, so there is the birdhouse. Okay, and then we want the saying, thinking of you. And this is going to be stamped in real red on the label from the, let me say that again, the Tasteful Labels. Yay! Always feel better when something like that works. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp the inside hello. So there we have that. All right, so now we just have some assembly to do. I'm going to go ahead and put the inside in my card. So there's that. And then let's assemble this tag. So I'm going to take my Stampin' Seal, and I'm just going to put just a small line of the stamping seal here. I'm going to bring in my ribbon. This is from the Ornate Garden Suite. It's a combo pack. And I'm just going to come in and wind this ribbon back and forth. And I'm using that Stampin' Seal to hold that in place for me. So we'll trim our ends. Easy. Okay, and then let's talk about the label. There it is. I couldn't find it for a minute. This isn't going to look very good behind there. It's just short. So what I'm going to do is cut it in half. I'm going to put some glue dots and I'm just going to stick this on here, and then we'll do the same with the other side. And I'm using this little point to help me, and I want them to stick out about the same. And I think this one maybe needs to go a little closer. There, that's it. Okay, we'll straighten that out. I put 2 glue dots, but I think I ended up putting one on top of the other, and that probably didn't help very much. Okay, I've got some slithers here of dimensionals that I'm going to use up on this, and I think I will stick one in the middle. So let me take that off. I'm just going to use my take your pick tool, I think, to pick those off a little easier. And then this will go here on top of my ribbon, like so. All right, so now we are going to add dimensionals to the back. There they are. The back of the stitched nested labels die cut. And I'm just going to try to stick these back in there that all came off at once. Just stick one here. Okay. And then we'll bring our card back in. Remember, we had cut this hole right here, but here's where it's going to get covered up. So when I place this, I'm trying to look at the ends here and the sides and get it in the middle of everything. And then I do have, do you misplace everything when you stamp? I seem to. There they are. I do have the metallic pearls that I'm going to decorate the card just a little. So, well, so I'm going to put one down in here, and then 2 up there. Okay, so there we go. We've made the 2 cards, and I think they look really nice. And the good thing is, with this all set up, the tree all set up on the Stamparatus, and sorry about all these other smudges, it's going to be easy to duplicate multiples of this card at one time. And like I said, I did this in a class, and they were able to use this and stamp quickly and successfully. And if I wanted to make a lot of these, I've got it all set up and ready to go. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. I do sell the supplies that you see in the video, and I would appreciate your business if you feel so inclined. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.